Today we're going to look at factoring with polynomials. So this is basically what you did last week. We're just throwing the algebra back in, okay? The trick of this is just don't get overwhelmed by all the x's and x squareds. It's literally just the only math in it is what you did last week, okay? It's the reverse of what we did before. So if you can do the lesson from last week, you can do this, okay? If you can say the two numbers that add to 7 and multiply to 12 are 3 and 4, you can factor this polynomial in expanded or standard form into its factored form. So yeah, it is exactly the reverse of what we did last week. Sometimes you want to go one way, sometimes you want to go the other way. This is all about manipulating numbers. Sometimes, like for example, if you're graphing it, that's easier. If you're trying to solve it, you're going to notice this is going to be a lot easier. It's just the way math works. You need to know how to manipulate numbers in both directions, okay? But the main thing to remember is, if you can add to 7 and multiply to 12 and know that the numbers are 3 and 4, you can do this. And you'll actually notice there's a bit of a pattern here. And that's the trick. The trick is this. The middle number of the polynomial, including the plus or minus sign, is the number you need to add to. Because when you expand it, you're going to actually end up with an x minus 3 and an x minus 2. They're going to add together to give you that minus 5x, right? 3 and 2 adds to 5. This is the number you need to multiply to, because when you were expanding, the last step would be going minus 2 times minus 3, which would give you plus 6. Okay? So here's the trick. When you get something like this is the number you need to add to. This is the number you need to multiply to. So we know we need numbers that add to minus 5 and multiply to plus 6. So they have to be minus 2 and minus 3, because minus 2 times minus 3, plus 6. Minus 2 plus minus 3, minus 5. Then all you do is you just write it out in brackets like this. X, and then put the minus 2 there. X minus 3. Boom, factored, done. Okay? So that's what factoring is. Now, factoring you need to practice a little bit. I never really got good at it in high school. It took me until a long time to get the factoring, figuring out what it was, because literally I was just given that and told, yeah, factor it. Never told really how do you do it. The trick is don't overthink it. That's the number you need to add to. That's the number you need to multiply to. Once you find your two answers, you just write them out. So this is really basically what we've done. So let's just go through a bunch. This is the standard form or the expanded form, where you have an x squared and x, and the factored form is where you have the brackets. So x squared plus 7x plus 6. What does that mean? Well, the sum, the thing we need to add to is 7. The product, the thing we need to multiply to is 6. So it's exactly this. We just do what we did last week. What multiplies to 6 adds to 7? Well, when you get something like that, always try 1 and 6 first, because if you notice that the thing that multiplies actually is what would add up, that's pretty fast. So 1 and 6 adds to 7, multiply to 6. What does that mean? Well, your factored form is just x plus 1, x plus 6. You're done. This one looks much more complicated. Well, we're adding to 13, multiplying to 36. Okay, so what we basically go through, okay, well, obviously 12 and 1, no, it's going to need to be bigger than that. So we're probably going to be somewhere in the middle. So what you do is you basically just go through, and if nothing else, trial by error until you find the numbers that add to 13 and multiply to 36. You find that they're 4 and 9. Now the easy part, it's just x plus 4, x plus 9. Done. X squared plus 10x plus 16. Well, what adds to 10 multiplies to 16? Just always remember, adding to the one in the middle, multiplying to the one at the end. Well, 10 and 16, all right, well, obviously 1 and 9, no. Go down 1, oh, 2 and 8. Yep, that works. That multiplies to 16. So it's got to be x plus 2, x plus 8. There you go. Okay? What about if it's negative? Well, just remember, a positive times a positive gives you a positive. A negative times a negative gives you a positive. A positive and a negative give you a negative. So if the number you're multiplying to, and don't forget, if you see a minus there, you've got to put the minus in. If it's multiplying to minus, okay, that means you're going to need a positive and a negative number. If it's going to be positive, that means you're either going to need two negative numbers, in which case they're going to add up to that, or you're going to need a positive and a negative number, okay? But the product tells you right off the bat, okay? If it's positive, you either are going to need two negatives, two positives. If it's negative, you're going to need it. One is going to be positive, one is going to be negative, okay? For the product. The sum can be negative if they're both negative, but this basically gives you a little hint. So, what numbers add up to 1 and multiply to minus 6? Well, multiplying to minus 6, adding to 1 would be 3 and minus 2, right? 3 minus 2 is 1. 3 times minus 2, positive times negative, gives you a negative. So those are the numbers. Now, all you have to remember is when you're putting the number in, don't put these numbers, okay? That's going to be the easiest simple mistake you're going to make, is you're going to want to copy those numbers over. It's not these. These are what the numbers actually are here. You want the numbers that multiply to that and add to that. These are the numbers you're putting in. If there's a negative, just put it in as a minus 2 instead of a plus, okay? And that's it. If it's 3, it's just plus. So if they're negatives, you put them in as negatives. If they're positive, you put a plus. That's the only difference really with a negative. So let's go through a few. So x squared plus 7x plus 10. I've tried to color code it to make life a little easier for you. So x squared plus means find two numbers that add to 7 and multiply to 10. So let's see, 9 and 1, no, that doesn't. Sorry, 10 and 1, not what. Let's see, 6 and 1, no. 5 and 2. Well, 5 and 2 add to 7, and when you multiply them, you get 10. So it's the numbers have to be 2 and 5. So it's just x plus 2, x plus 5. Number 2, find two numbers that add to minus 6 and multiply to plus 9. So what adds to minus 6 and multiply? Well, if it's multiplying to plus 9, you know they both have to be negative. So what two negative numbers add together to give you minus 6? Well, there's minus 5 and minus 1. That doesn't work. Minus 4 and minus 2. Nope, that doesn't work. Minus 3 and minus 3. Well, yeah. Minus 3 and minus 3 add to minus 6. They multiply to plus 9. So the numbers are minus 3 and minus 3, so it's just x minus 3, x minus 3. With this one, add to minus 2, multiply to minus 15. So what adds to minus 2? Well, what multiplies to minus 15? Well, let's see. 15 and 1, no. It's odd, so it can't be anything. 2, 3. 3 times what is minus 15? Well, 3 times 5 is minus 15. Okay, well, if I want negative 2, the 5's got to be the more negative one, right? Because it's got to be negative. The 3 is going to be positive, so 5 minus 5 plus 3 is minus 2. So these are my two numbers. Just plug them in. X plus 3, x minus 5. It could be x minus 5, x plus 3 as well. Doesn't really matter. All right, so give it some practice. That's going to be this week. There's going to be this, and then there's going to be another practice sheet on Wednesday, because this is a skill you want to basically be able to do without thinking too much. All right, good work, good luck. See you next time.